Hey, what is up, ladies and gentlemen? I'm Sonic the Hedgehog here, and oh, hello. We got ourselves, not only for the sake of the actual Yoshi Zone, but we also got ourselves the Legend of Zelda Zone as well. So, but of course we'll show those two off as well in the future time. So even then though, yeah, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to more Let's Play of Sonic Lost World for the Nintendo Wii U, and I'm Sonic the Hedgehog here, as I said before, from the likes of the Maxi Toys videos. So anyways, last time we did manage to able to be completely done with the forms of the first zone in Sonic Lost World, and that is of course Windy Hill Zone, and we managed to able to gather all of these red star rings in each of the acts, and as you can see we got ourselves our first Chaos Emerald in the process here too. So anyways though, today for this video is the fact that we're about to be continuing exploring and about to be hit on to the next world in this game, and that is Desert Ruin Zone, which is essentially World 2 of the new Super Mario Bros. Games, basically. So even then though, because, well, I'll explain more details onto this though whenever we get to the future worlds, as I said before, and looks like we need about 300 flickies, which we got enough of those flickies. So even then though, let's get this thing to it with Desert Ruins Zone X1, and right off the bat though, not only do we able to actually just to jump into this next new theme of a zone, but also we might actually stumble across our new Wisp that we can actually interact with. So yeah, without further ado, let's get this thing to it.
These animals are quite underwhelming. I'm disappointed in you incompetent fools. Violently disappointed.
We don't care about your disappointment, Master.
Do you care now? Next time, bring better animals.
I wonder what that particular item that Eggman is used for, I wonder. But anyways, let's get this thing to it with Desert Ruin Zone 1. In this case, as I said this before, it's basically World 2 of the new Super Mario Bros. Games, basically, except, well, there might be some different gimmicks here and there. So even then though, as you can tell right off the bat though, is the fact that we can able to actually just get used to with the actual, like, other obstacles along the way, especially noticeable with how the fact that, well, as you can see, that we actually did manage to see, there's quite a lot of triangles representing the Triforce, representing from the Legend of Zelda series. So even then, because I think that's the reason why that we actually got ourselves a little bit more of a, well, I would say by the forms of only on the Wii U version may actually get ourselves the Nintendo exclusive DLC, because they don't have those on a PC version, but they do have one DLC on a PC version, and that is of course the Nights into Dreams DLC. So even then, I'll show that off until then, after we're done with the main game first. So even then, I thought to myself I might as well able to go ahead and do that. So yeah, today's day is the forms of the 8th of June, in this case in 2019. So generally speaking, we've already got about 20 more days to go until Super Mario Maker 2 for the Nintendo Switch will be on its way. So even then, and speaking of which, that some people seem to still play the original Super Mario Maker on the Nintendo Wii U, even to this day, I'm afraid to say that you guys out there will only have like 20 more days to go until you're able to actually move on to the, you know, moving on to the sequel of Super Mario Maker, which is of course Super Mario Maker 2. So even then though, that's besides the point. So, right off the bat though, there's going to be some occasional 3D to 2D sections once in a while though, so either way though, that's as far as I can most likely say about it here. And by the way, if you hold down the ZR button on your Wii U gamepad, you can able to actually see Sonic is about to be able to doing this little waiting animation, specifically when he starts to prepare the figure 8 super peel out kind of technique. But except the fact that, well, it's obviously not going to take place in a classic era of Sonic games. Instead, it's more accurately, you know, it's just a modern game, basically. So either way, though, and as usual, I'm going to be going after all of these red star rings, basically. So because of this, though, well, I feel like this is where the game starts to get slightly trickier, especially noticeable with how the fact that with these little red star ring locations in mind. And by the way, we actually introduced into ourselves the new Wisp type, and that is, of course, I would say, Crimson Red Eagle, which in order to actually just to take control of this wisp, is that you can able to actually soar flying into the sky, and then as you can tell, there is also a time limit here and there as well. So even then though, keep that in mind is the fact that, for those of you who have a first time experiencing Sonic Lost World back in 2013, when this game was first released, so most of these wisps in this game actually it like has a lot of usage of the Wii U gamepad's controls. Like for instance that during the likes of in the Laser Wisp, you can able to actually use the touchscreen controls and stuff like that to able to sweep the screen or swipe the screen as a result. But then whenever you notice is that when you get to Asteroid Wisp, and especially noticeable with the Crimson Red Eagle Wisp, that game, or these two wisps in mind, actually utilizes the gyroscope controls for the Wii U gamepad. And then every once in a while, when it gets to the point until, like, I would say, by the forms of until, let's just say at the very end of 2013, let's just say in December, for instance, around the same time as Yoshi's Island Zone came around as the next piece of DLC, and that's you can able to actually now able to take control of these wisps. You can able to actually control those with your analog stick controls this time. So even then though, I'm actually kind of prefer it that way, because either way though, the problem I have with the gyroscope controls with the Wii U gamepad sometimes is the fact that sometimes I easily just manage to able to do not knowing what I'm supposed to do. Even though I said this before about the fact that you can able to actually use a different control type to able to actually decide to able to actually just take control of the Wisp's powers, but the game doesn't really tell you can do that, because otherwise it just tells you specifically for the originally going to be controls. Like for instance that if you manage to activate the let's just say the Eagle Wisp, as I said before, you need to able to tilt the motion you need to tilt the Wii U gamepad until you're able to actually just able to move the Eagle. And same applies for the Asteroid as well, which I'm thankfully for them to say they did manage to fix that whenever when I managed to able to use the analog stick on the when a new patch update has been arrived. So yeah, you probably get the idea. And this is where I feel like the game starts to get slightly tricky and difficult, especially noticeable that still I'm going to go after every single of those red star rings, is the fact that, dear lord, the difficulty in this game will start to rank up at any seconds worth noting for, because if you somehow manage to able to try to go after every single of those red star rings, as I countlessly said a whole bunch of times, well, you're gonna die a lot, especially noticeable when we get to Desert Ruin Zone, and especially noticeable for the future zones. Because of this though, there's gonna be a lot of trial and error in this game, because even then though, if you really want to get like something that's very rewarding, if you're about to get every single of those red star rings, well, you have to cope with trial and error, because as long as you can able to continuously grabbing those spare extra lives, and especially noticeable with these rings essentially, you can able to actually retry them whatever you want. But I hate in some situations, specifically whenever we get to the 4th zone in Desert Ruin Zone, oh my god, you have to deal with all this kinds of trial and error, so I said this before, and that was extremely close. Because yes, there's going to be a lot of emphasis on instant death traps here and there as well. Like these enemies, for instance, you know, these little giant worm-like enemies. Basically, if you somehow manage to get eaten by those little stretchy worms, it's instant death if you manage to get inside its mouth. So as a result though, just like in the forms of one of those enemies, if you're familiar with the Super Mario Bros. 3, that in the World 3 for instance, that there was actually an enemy called Cheap Bumper. I'm assuming that's what that enemy's name was for. Basically, it's kind of like that, except you're actually playing as a Sonic game. And unlike in Mario 3, that if you somehow die, you have to return back to the world map. But in this game, you can able to continue where you left off, on the, assuming if you're able to touch the checkpoint and all the other stuff. I forgot to mention about the forms of the bell system on this particular sections, like here. Like every time you keep on touching the bell in certain parts of a level, if you manage to keep on touching the bell, I would say for about 5 times or something like that, the red ring will start to pop up. So even then though, that might be the only way I'm purposely trying to able to go for all that stuff. Because back in during the likes of in 2013, when I accidentally said this before, I did manage to accidentally say that Chip and Kamek did manage to deal with Sonic Lost World on the 3DS Let's Play, but it turns out I was wrong, because, well, I said Kamek right, but except one toy, as far as I'm aware, and that is Brown Teddy that he did manage to tackle for that game back in 2013. So, and as a result, though, I remember back in the day that those two completely ignored the red star rings because, while I feel like the 3DS version is definitely a little bit more of a weaker experience than the forms of how it does it on the Wii U version / the PC version. Still, I said this before, I still haven't owned the PC version, in this case a Steam version of the game, because, well, I just don't feel like accessing to those other, it's pretty cool to able to actually notice something like this, is that, just like in Sonic Generations, and especially noticeable for Sonic Forces especially, and even Sonic Mania as a result, there's also some level mods, and especially noticeable with, some character mods here and there as well, which is pretty swell if you ask me. So anyways, folks, we're now returning back into the forms of the circus tent, and this time around, though, we're actually going to be taking control of the forms of that cannon contraption, which, if you manage to touch it with the actual Wii U gamepad, and then you would able to blast off to the skies. And as you can see, we managed to pop up the actual purple balloon, which basically that actually functions as a screen nuke. Which, if you somehow pop the purple balloon, this means you would get every single flicky out of the every single balloons. So yeah, pretty swell, and it should be a lot more easy to able to farm those flickies in no time.
You, fat one, go take care of that blue pest.
Hey, who are you calling fat?
You. Now, if you hurry and destroy Sonic, I've got an even bigger sandwich.
Boy, sandwich!
Oh, help me.
Alright, so let's get to it with the next level in Desert Ruin Zone, in this case, Desert Ruin Zone Act 2, and in this particular level is going to be a different gimmick of all sorts, because now we're going to be able to keep on running without even, like, going to a complete stop. And this might be very familiar to you, for those of you who ever played Sonic 06 before, both on the 360 or the PlayStation 3 version, because yes, these are very similar structure as the forms of how it does it on the Mark Speed sections in Sonic 06, despite the fact that you only have to come across into this at least once. So, at least unlike in Sonic 06, you have to come across into a Mark Speed sections 4 times. So, but either way, though, that's besides the point. So basically, in this kinds of levels like this, well, specifically the Honeycomb, I don't know exactly what you call this level, though, honestly, because I know for the fact that it's been such a long time since I actually played this game for some time, because, well, I'm obviously used to with any other Sonic games at this point. So either way, in this level, as I said before, we need to keep on running forward, because otherwise, if you go into the forms, if you somehow bash to a wall, then it's instant death. See, Veneno, and same applies if you keep on getting hit multitude of times, even especially noticeable for falling down to the bottomless pit down below, especially as well. And if you really want to go after every single of those red star rings, as I said this before, you really can't afford to able to miss one, because if you do miss one, well, you need to able to backtrack and you have to redo the entire level again. Because as far as I'm aware, the checkpoint system in this level is basically whenever you go onto this, the next portion right here, specifically if you go towards the actual flower bit right there, then the actual flower itself will able to actually shoot you forward. Basically, you cannot even backtrack whatsoever, because all you have to do is basically they need to keep on running forward. So even though I actually do really think that this does improve a lot more better than in forms of how it does it on the Mark Speed sections on Sonic 06, in my opinion, just because, well, back in Sonic 06, that about the fact that with the momentum in mind, especially noticeable if you're in midair and stuff like that, well, the problem with that is the fact that you can't control yourself in midair, so you always have to stay locked in place. It depends on your jump positioning stuff, and especially noticeable with how the fact that, well, obviously, if you keep on running into things, then Sonic might actually cause a seizure or something like that for himself. So, this is a very good level to able to actually farm those extra lives, by the way, because if you keep on dying multitude of times, and if you come back onto that section again, then you would able to actually max out your extra lives as much as possible. So even then, that should be pretty pleasant surprise, especially noticeable on this bit right there. And not to mention with all this kinds of stuff like this, we also got ourselves our, you know, the 5th and final red star ring on this level. So, mind you, I did only die like twice in this level though, just because, well, I wasn't paying that much attention at the first death, and especially noticeable with, well, I accidentally slapped myself onto the, or in this case, slam into the wall, because that's the way you can only die in this level though. So aside from bottomless pit and all that stuff. So here we go, folks. Here's the forms of the next Deadly Six member, as you can tell from that cutscene logic, and that his name was Zumon, which is basically, it's like, it kind of reminds me like Martin Cooper Jr. almost from the new Super Mario Bros. Games, basically, but except the fact that his personality is all about, let's just say, for instance, for example, that in most of these Deadly Six, manage to have themselves a different sort of personalities in between 6 of these Deadly Six. That is have to be like Zaz is the craziest one of them all, and especially noticeable for Zumon is, as you can see right there, he looks entirely fat, which we'll probably be able to actually notice by now is the fact that he always loves food, in this case his sandwich. So all you have to do in this particular battle is that, much like in the forms of how it does it on Zaz boss fight, well, we need to keep on doing a little bit of a homie attack chain or something like that, or in this case the actual build up radical and stuff like that, or charged up homie attack. So, you know, it's very easy.
Power levels green, Orbot?
Power level stable. Extractor activated.
Good, good.
Oh yeah, that's the stuff. Feed me, baby. I'm feeling stronger by the second. Levels fluctuating. Reaction unstable. Better shut it down quick, boss, or it will lock into overload.
Shut it down!
Why just stop, boss? I felt great.
The machine is unstable. We just want to borrow some of the planet's energy. We don't want to destroy it.
Speak for yourself.
It looks like that the leader of the Deadly Six might be hiding up to something, but I guess we'll never know until later on, because either way, we're about to be moving on to the next level, which appears to be some sort of a sweetie themed or anything like that. So let's go into Desert Ruin Zone 3. So let's get this thing to it. Oh wait, I'm sorry, Desert Ruin Zone Act 3. Oh, I get it, because this particular level is basically a sweet theme. So even then though, this particular stage kind of reminds me of that particular galaxy from Super Mario Galaxy, which if you remember Sweet Sweet Dream, the Sweet Sweet Galaxy, that particular stage is actually based off from the actual Sweets boutique. So that could be same applies on one of those galaxies in Super Mario Galaxy 2 in World 4. That is Sweet Mystery Galaxy, which either way, I actually really do like the food theme levels in most of these video games, which I kind of wish it does that on specifically the most recent 2D Mario games nowadays, because most of the time though, they just really can't be bothered able to make it the levels unique or anything. So either way, this stage is entirely in 2D, so we need to be very paying attention to the effects of careful platforming, and especially noticeable with how the fact that, well, it's going to be a lot of tricky platforming segments for time to time. But honestly, this level wasn't as hard, but until later on of how this game will able to actually force you to deal with like some other gimmicks and stuff like that, which, to be honest with you, I actually don't really mind of some changing gameplay mechanics here and there, assumingly because of how the fact of the matter is though, is that it just makes it a little bit different than the forms of how it does it on the boost formula from the likes of Sonic Colors and Sonic Unleashed and Sonic Generations and recently Sonic Forces. But I don't know what's going to bring something new to the table until when the next Sonic game is about to be announced during the likes of any well, specifically when it comes to the future plannings and stuff. Well, we don't know if the forms of the E3 announcements or anything like that, but we'll see what happens there. We'll definitely see what happens there. So, either way. So, again, not much else to really tell about this at this point, folks. I will mention about more details about any kinds of other gaming stuff until whenever we get to the third zone at the moment, just because, well, I figure I might as well able to do that, because obviously I think that's as far as I can really say about when it comes to the whoa, jeez, Fly Swiper or something like that, or the fires, or it's hard to explain about the forms of those Badniks names, but luckily for me, I can able to backtrack for a bit, and good thing too is the fact that you can able to actually use those cannons as many times as you want. So even then, that way you can able to actually go ahead, and since I'm going after these red star rings, of course, that means I can able to actually get back onto the forms of those cannons right there. They look very similar, by the way, to the forms of the Oil Ocean Zone from Sonic the Hedgehog 2. And by the way, there's also another cannon just right down there. That means you can able to actually get the insane amount of rings, and especially noticeable to top it all off with the extra life. Because again, that it needs to be on version 3.0 update or something like that. And because back in version 2.0 to, well, in this case, version 2.0.0, it doesn't have the ability to able to let the 100 rings give you an extra life or something. So either way though, but I'm very happy that was being fixed. So, but either way though, that concludes the Desert Ruins Zone Act 3, because, well, everything else is made out of desserts. Like, for instance, there was ice creams, donuts, and especially noticeable for those candies. And heck, even with the forms of the pancakes especially as well, which, I will admit though, I still really enjoy pancakes even to this day. So anyways though, that concludes that level, so let's move on to the last level on Desert Ruins Zone Act 4. So even then, let's head to it.
One word of helpful advice: diet and exercise.
That's 3 words.
Hey! Whoa!
I think I'll have you for dessert.
Don't talk with your mouth full.
Yeah, right. Hey, I forgot the mustard. Be right back.
Hey, where do you think you're going?
Seriously, I cannot even believe that Zumon's sandwiches is the most ridiculously long sandwich that he's ever going to eat. Even then, I can't even able to actually eat it that lot. But I digress. So let us move on to Desert Ruins Zone Act 4, where basically this stage takes place, well, usually takes place entirely in 2D, and very similar to the forms of how it does it on the forms of Act 3, but except unlike in Act 3, that usually takes place in somewhat of a point A to point B perspective. This is an auto-scroller section, so even then though, because of this though, we're getting chased by the forms of that tornado. So even then though, what happens if you do touched by the tornado? Well, it's instant death as well. So, yeah, because I can definitely tell from the fact that this is the reason why that the first playthrough of Sonic Lost World is going to be like all over the place when it comes to difficulty, because even then, as I said this before, it would be better on the second and third run through if you know how to avoid these bullcrap stuff like this. So, I digress. So here we go, folks. Here's the returning Wisp from Sonic Colors. We have ourselves the yellow drill Wisp. And just like in the forms of how it does it on Sonic Colors, well, you can able to actually drill from the ground. So even then, self-explanatory, and as usual, we need to keep on collecting those yellow Wisp capsules before you're able to continue things on. And by the way, you can actually press the Y button to able to actually break the acceleration of the actual drill Wisp. So I did not even know that until now. Because of that though, it should be a lot more easier just to able to keep this little steering time as it is. So even then though, and as far as I'm most likely concerned, there might be a red star ring around here somewhere. So even then though, in this case, there's one over there. So, but what makes it a little bit iffy with Wisp powers, and I accidentally died right there, so oh well though, at least we got a checkpoint right there, so that's pretty swell stuff. And also that, just like in Sonic Unleashed, that you can able to actually re-grab these extra lives again, but not only for the sake of the actual rings, but it's also the actual, well, item capsule here and there as well. So, you probably get the gist of it. So even then though, that, although, just like the forms of how it does it on Sonic Colors or the Wii, basically you can't able to homing attack onto those capsules, so you have to purposely try to land on those kinds of stuff, because unlike in Sonic Colors on the DS, at least in that version of that game, does allows you to able to homing attack onto those little Wisp capsules or anything like that. And what I keep missing, that red star ring! Oh jeez, this is what I mean when it comes to the red star ring system in this game. It just feels kind of nerve-wracking, honestly, because not only does it able to actually rank up your, or in this case, keep on losing your extra lives in the process, but it's also the fact of the matter is, though, is that when we get to the later levels of this game, holy Christ, it will give you a lot of trial and error if you keep on getting several mistakes, like this one, for instance. Then, obviously, because the way how the fact that I really hate the situation when you only have like one shot by getting that specific red ring, or also you have to die and try again, or restart the entire level in case of the forms of the future level coming up, which is specifically on the 4th world, and how do I instantly bypass that for like no sortable reason? Oh, and by the way, just like in the forms of Sonic Colors, is that you need to keep an eye out with the actual time limit thing, because if it starts to run out, then you were able to instantly get crushed into the actual underground, and you would die instantly. So, keep that in mind. So even then, let's just go ahead and continue things onwards. Thankfully though, the majority of the levels themselves, unlike the 3DS version of the game, at least in those levels on the Wii U version, can be a little bit more of a pretty good length, as opposed to the likes of how it does on the 3DS version. Well, not so bad in the beginning on the 3DS version, but until the later worlds, specifically, and I accidentally missed my chance to be able to get that 4th red star ring, but that's okay, because there's a checkpoint right there, so hopefully I'll try that again. So, as I said before, whenever we get to the 3rd zone and onwards on the 3DS version, the levels themselves can get ridiculously long, and it's just especially noticeable when it starts to drag out instantly. So that's why I had a much more better experience on the Wii U version, in my opinion, just because not only for better visuals, but it's also the fact that, well, honestly, because of my capture card recording session, it's still pretty much locked in 30 frames per second, but at least if you manage to able to play this all by yourself, holy macaroni, this game runs like butterly smooth. Even then, this is actually the first time ever. Well, technically that was Sonic Generations on the PC version does it first, at least ever since back in during the likes of Sonic Heroes for, well, at least in this case, Sonic 06 of all things, that it does manage to run on 60 frames per second, which for me, I'm actually quite happy for it. So, oh, really, do I have to take my risk? I might as well take a risk, because if yeah, this is what happens if you get sucked into the actual tornado right there. Well, in this case, a sand tornado, not the tornado plane, because otherwise, I don't think we can able to actually see that tornado ever again, because, well, for the sake of the actual aircraft, because it only happens in, well, it only makes it appears in during twice in the actual story so far, and aside from that, well, I'm pretty sure that Sonic or Tails managed to able to walk on foot to the next world or something. So it could be a possibility, though, but I don't know. I will admit though right away is that I really do like the music right there, and sometimes that, well, the only problem I have with this game sometimes, especially on the 2D sections, well, to me more specifically, when if you get to trying to get your hands on these red star rings, as you can see right there, Sonic's jump just feels slightly sluggish every time you're able to actually just to keep your momentum going. And as a result though, sometimes I keep on losing footing of myself. But I will say this, as far as defending the forms of the 2D sections, this is easily much more better than the forms of how it does it on Sonic Force's 2D sections, at least for modern Sonic's perspective, because, well, for Sonic Forces though, it might be slightly similar to this, but except the fact that in Sonic Forces case, on the 2D sections with modern Sonic, it just feels twice as worse than in forms of how it does it on this particular installment, because even then, well though, there's only one thing I forgot to mention about this potentially, is the fact that, well, if you manage to able to play this on the PC version, that if you manage to collect those, what? I swear to God, I did not even jump at the right time. Oh, jeez, that's ridiculous. But anyways, let's try this again. Hopefully with a successful attempt or whatever though, then I shall be able to actually succeed from my own hands. So, anyway, yeah, if you manage to play the PC version of the game, if you manage to obtain the red star rings, I forgot to explain about this potentially, is that the sound effects, whenever you collect the red star ring, like, if you probably could hear it several times on the Wii U version, in fact, I'll give you a sound clip in just a moment. Yeah, it sounds just fine, because that particular sound effect is actually very similar to the forms of how it does it on Sonic Colors on the Nintendo Wii. But what happens if you manage to obtain these on the PC version? Well, it just somehow gets like a weird sound effects tone, like something more accurately like, or anything like that, or that specific sound effects, which I just don't get it, why they actually did manage to pitch out that sound effect to begin with, but either way though, that's as far as I can most likely say about it here. So, anyways though, when we get towards the end of this section right here, after getting chased by the tornado to begin with, well, we got ourselves, of course, a rematch against with our Zoomon, but this time a little bit tricky and difficult, but still pretty easy nonetheless. So, all you have to do is basically, after when he's done the ground pound ability, you need to able to deal with the actual, charged up homing attack thing to able to do double the damage. And then after that, well, you need to chase after Zoomon with the Drill Wisp. And then once you get towards this particular, the ending portion of this section right there, well, try to go near to him though, because otherwise he's now starts to create blocks as the forms of the actual shield of the arena. Because if you stand underneath those falling blocks, it will instantly crush you and you're able to die instantly. So keep that in mind, watch out for that. See, Fernando, because of this though, isn't that the exact same thing we've already seen since the second zone of this level? Or in this case for this zone rather. I'm guessing because he's pretty much giving up on that particular robotic-sized, I don't know. So anyways, once you deal with all that, and then as soon as he's spinning out, then you weren't able to deal with the last, you know, charged up homing attack later, then you weren't able to finish him, no problem. So that's as far as I can say about the forms of that particular Zoomon boss fight, even that is very simple and easy fight. And that's pretty much it for Desert Ruins Zone Act 4, and also for the entire zone itself. See Fernando, and of course, we're about to be able to see the next cutscene. See Fernando, I'll let you guys to enjoy it, so, you know.
I hone your abilities. I equip you with the most powerful mechs I can create. I even give you a giant sandwich, and you still disappoint me. I'm a compassionate man.
That shell looks like trouble.
Hold on a second. Sonic! I think that thing in Eggman's hand
Gone! Eggman's shell is gone.
That was a mistake.
Whatever. When is it a mistake to take your toys away?
When it's the only thing keeping 6 angry Zeti from controlling my mechs, you moronic hedgehog!
Strike, brothers! Make the fool pay for our abuse and enslavement.
Shiver me timbers!
I hate to run away from a fight, Tails, but I don't want to see you get fried.
Not getting fried would be nice.
Warbot! Killbot! We are leaving!
Oh man, I should have listened to you, Tails.
Oh, you think?
So there goes the Deadly Six goes out of control without even like a cock shell of all things. Then, yeah, basically we need to get the heck out of here. And also, we got ourselves our second Chaos Emerald in the process. And this time around, we have the purple color. So either way, yeah, everything else is self-explanatory for the most part though. So even then though, I guess we'll soon to say, we'll grab the endings off at this point right there. So join me next time on Let's Play Sonic Lost World for the Nintendo Wii U. Is that we're going to be moving on to the third world in this game, and that is somewhat of a tropical beach theme level, and that is of course Tropical Coast Zone. So basically World 3 from New Super Mario Bros. U for Sparkling Water. So see you guys then. Later fellas.